Welcome back to another episode of the It's Only Kids Football podcast. Today we have a very special guest joining us, John Curtis. John is a former professional footballer who came through the ranks at the Cliff and went on to make more than 300 appearances for the likes of Manchester United, Blackburn, Nottingham Forest and Leicester City. But John's journey didn't stop on the pitch. After hanging up his boots, he moved to the United States and founded NCE Soccer, an organisation dedicated to developing young footballers. On today's show, my co-host and assistant manager Mike Clark will help me quiz John on his experiences growing up playing grassroots football in England, how that compares to what he sees in the US today, and his advice for nurturing young talent. We'll explore the cultural differences between English football and American football and hear how John's time at Manchester United shaped his approach to coaching kids today. John, how you doing, mate?
I'm very well, thanks, guys. Good to be here.
Brilliant. No, good to have you on, mate. Good to have you on. Now, obviously, when we put out the call, a lot of the questions are about Manchester United. Lots and lots about Man United. They just want to know about that. But we want to start, we want to talk about United and how that shaped and we're interested in that experience. We want to know where it started for you. Grassroots football for kids in the 90s, very much my era. Where did you start playing? Who did you play for? And what was that like?
So I'm from a town in the Midlands called Nuneaton. And I actually live on a street called Chetwynd Drive. And my first kind of Sunday league team was Chetwynd Squirrels FC. So that's my first memory of
a 90s grassroots name.
That's it, Chetwynd Squirrels. And to be honest, I actually bounced around a little bit. I went to play for Bulkington Lions down the road, in the village down the road, because they were a bit better. And then ended up playing for another local team in Nuneaton called Grove Farm. So they were my three kind of Sunday league teams. It started getting a bit serious when we were at Grove Farm. We started playing in the Tamworth League, which was kind of bolted onto the side of Birmingham. So it was a much tougher league for us to play in. But it was good fun. Great memories.
What is it about that experience? Like, if you cast your mind back now, what sticks out? What memories do you have of it? What did you love about it? Tell us. What did it smell like? What give me your sensory overload, John. What was it like?
Oh, blooming hell, yeah. It's half-time oranges and taking your kit home to wash it and mud. I can just remember being muddy every Sunday coming home covered in it, getting in my dad's car and, even having to put plastic bags down on the seat. So you've been sliding tackles and all this kind of stuff. So, but just being together with family, my dad would always come, my granddad would always come. We'd be there traveling around kind of the West Midlands, going to all these various places and playing games. But great fun, great camaraderie with mates as well. I always played a year up. So they weren't really schoolmates. So it was like a separate group of mates for me. I just have fond memories, just a great time. I never remember being under any pressure or just playing for fun, and that was so great.
I was going to say, do you still stay in touch with any of those mates? Can you still remember them? Can you picture them?
No, you know what? I see one or two of them on social media again, but it's so tough. If you think about with my journey, my last pro club was in Australia. So I moved to Australia and then never really went back to the UK. So towards mid to late 30s, I'd already left England and was away. So it's very difficult to try and stay in touch with people. It's great to see them doing well. One of the guys I played with, Mark Bridge-Wilkinson, he was at Liverpool for a long time. He's still working in the league now somewhere he was under 18s coach at Liverpool for a long time. A lot of the guys had gone on to work in football a longer period. Not many of it. Mark was a pro, but not many of them went on to play professionally. A lot of them played kind of a good level, semi-professional, non-league football. And then quite a few actually went into the pro game to work on the youth side, which was nice.
Was like every pro starts as a striker because they're the best kid and they smash in all the goals, and then they get moved back as it levels out with their playing against kids at their sort of level of ability. Was you banging in the goals at that level?
I think for the first couple of training sessions when I arrived, I said I'm a centre forward, and then the coach quickly moved me into centre midfield. So then I played centre midfield throughout my entire kind of Sunday league career. I think he just tried to put the best players where they could have the most influence, So that's why we ended up in midfield. So, but it was great fun, really good fun.
And what about the coaches, John? Were they the dads like Ben and I who put their hands up? What was the standard of coaching like? And did you learn anything from those grassroots coaches, or was it you really stepped up your game outside of the actual grassroots pitch?
Listen, of course you do. These guys are men. I can remember my first coach, Les Yates. He lived down the road, round the corner, and he was the manager of the team. And when you're a kid and you're working underneath middle-aged men, listen. These guys are not A licensed coaches or even B licensed coaches. They probably didn't have any qualifications, but they've lived life. They've been to work, they've grinded, they've achieved in life. And they're the most valuable lessons you can get, working with those kind of people. So yeah, learn an awful lot about how to be a good teammate, camaraderie in the changing rooms, and just the important things, really. Not the X's and O's. More about, if you're going to be from a coach's perspective, the psych and social corner. We're ticking that box in a big way. So, and I think that's, throughout my career, it's always been the most important corner.
What was your dad like, John? Was he nailing you to the wall? Was he supportive?
No. He was supportive. Listen, he had expectations. He didn't want to drive around all over the place for me to not give 100%. So he was an active kind of sideline participant. He'd shout when necessary, but I didn't really feel any. You talk about kids feeling loads of pressure. I didn't feel that pressure, particularly not when I was playing for Chetwynd Squirrels, put it like that. So it was just a bit of fun.
Bring up the Squirrels.
Yeah. Do you know what? If anyone is listening from the Squirrels, we want to hear from you, okay? If anyone out there remembers that club or is attached to that club, we want to hear from you. Forgive me, John. I don't know, if you have children or if you, whatever,
3
part
boys.
of your life. 3 boys. Okay. Do they play football? How old are they? And what are you like with them?
My eldest boy's a rugby player, so he's a professional rugby player, plays for Sale Sharks. So,
Wow.
Yeah, Tom Curtis. So, and then my middle son, George, he loves football. He's really passionate about football. He's actually over in the UK at school, at Millfield School. So he's loving it. He's playing in the B team at Millfield, and he's going to Portugal next month to go and play. He's loving life playing football at Millfield, which is great. And then my youngest son, I'm the coach. So 3 days a week or 4, sometimes 5 days a week. Little Oliver's with me, so my 8-year-old. So and that is a challenge, as you guys know. That is a challenge. Coaching your own son is a challenge.
This is next level. But I'm very excited to dive into that. But I just want to, before we move into that, how much were you involved with your eldest as a rugby player? Because I just want to know if that's a different environment. What are the parents like there? What are the coaches like there? How different is that to football?
Yeah. So myself and Tom's mum split up when he was 3 or 4. And then with me leaving, I left to go to Australia when Tom was about 10 or 11. So, and he wasn't, and I was obviously a really active dad. I was driving up and down the motorway from Portsmouth or from Nottingham, wherever I was, seeing Tom all the time. Every pitch I ever played on, I think he's always done the end of season lap of honor and all that kind of stuff. So I was never that active in it, because by the time he really turned to rugby, he was kind of 12, 13. So, and at that point, I was over here in the States. So, I was never there on the sideline to see him. So I think that the rugby side comes from 2 things. Okay, my brother-in-law's a big rugby player. We're a sports mad family. So he has a little bit I played as a kid as well. Always encouraged rugby. I think it's a great sport. But on Tom's mum's side, his granddad actually runs a rugby club, Stockport Rugby Club. So he was always exposed to rugby. And then his mum ended up marrying Dean Schofield, who is a former England rugby player. So it was really that influence that I think switched Tom to rugby, because he was playing football and he was a good player. He went on trial to Everton, he went on trial to Crewe and these kind of places, but never really kicked on. And then as soon as he picks a rugby ball up, he's a totally different animal. So and now he's a kicking 10. So he's not a a typical forward, a big front row or anything like that. No, he's a silky 10. So a lot of his football skills kind of transmit into his rugby.
So your son was that kid at school that was just bloody good at everything, wasn't he? Oh look, here, John, get hold of this ball, and he's just better than everyone else.
Right.
But what about now you're managing your youngest? Come on, talk to us. What are your struggles? You're talking to two men that have done a pretty sketchy job so far themselves. So we want to know how.
Similar age group as well, John. Our boys are 8 and 9.
Yeah. So I volunteered, like you do, and I didn't. He played for a season, and I was watching on the sidelines, and I'm just being quiet, just watching, and thinking to myself, not really right. They're not really teaching them the right things here. That in fact, on occasion, they were actually telling them the wrong thing to do. So I was like, I've got to step in here and at least have some kind of influence early. So that was my thought process. And then I volunteered. And then after about 3 training sessions, I'm like, what have I done here? What have I done? Because as you know, at this kind of level, at the grassroots level, the difference in concentration span of these kids is minute anyway. But the difference between the kids is absolutely crazy. Some kids are like that, laser focused, and then you've got other kids wrestling. God forbid there's a soccer ball anywhere or a drinks bottle. They're squirting at each other. They're bouncing a ball off the heads. They just can't. I don't know if we were like that. I can't remember being like that when I was an 8-year-old. I think it's Instagram and blooming YouTube that's to blame for all of this. They've got
Let's
they
blame
just
you.
cannot concentrate.
No, listen, you're
Social media.
you are talking to 2 people that have complained a lot about this and done lots to try and fix it, and it is extremely difficult to engage them. And what was funny recently is we found that we'd complain a lot on the podcast, right? Like, God, they don't listen to team talks. It's so annoying. You're trying to tell them stuff. We waste so much time trying to get drills going because they don't listen, blah, blah, blah. And we'd had this perception that we'd be watching like other groups thinking, look at them. They are locked in. Why can't we do that? Why don't our boys do that? And then what was funny is these coaches would see us and say, you've got it all wrong. Like when we were talking to them, we were basically telling them to shut up and listen. Like they weren't paying attention. It looked like that, but they really weren't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it's a common problem. But how have you? We've been on a journey, myself and Mike, and we're getting better. But the emotional regulation of coaching your own son when your expectations of effort, not necessarily execution. It's more, I expect 100% effort, 100% commitment, and impeccable behavior at all times because you are here to set the example to everyone else. And then when said child basically gives you the middle finger into in your life, it's hard to control. It's hard to control those feelings. How have you coped with that?
Well, he's my youngest, remember, as well, and they know what they say about younger children. So, had it been George or Tom even, I think it would have been slightly easier. But Oliver is, he is his own person. So, listen, you're dead right. You have these kind of expectations, and I think it's too much. I think it's really, really tough to be able to. Well, Fletcher at United had it as well, didn't he? With his twins on the bench as well. It's a tough situation to be in. God knows what it's like at the pro level. but at our level, it's definitely a challenge. I think you just got to let them play. You know, it's good coaches always said to me, if in doubt, let them play. Just put two jumpers down and let them play, and they'll figure it out. And that's kind of how I've evolved. Because listen, if I was going to pigeonhole myself as a coach, it definitely isn't a U8, U9 coach. That takes a special kind of person, a special skill set to be able to do that. I'm more, because of my background, I'm automatically more accustomed to 15, 16, 17, 18, and even adults, to be honest. So it's been a challenge. This last 12 months have been a challenge.
I find that so interesting when we get coaches like yourself, vast history in the game, so much experience in coaching, and because we always see coaches when they're like, I've been coaching under 8s, under 9s, under 10s my whole career, or some that do under 8s, under 9s, and they just keep working their way up, and then they get into the more adult levels or high teens, and they always say how different it is. But those that really specialize in the underage, under 8s, under 9s, under 10s groups, I find as you said, it's a special skill. You've got to be a special type of person to stay in that game. But with your experience, it's so interesting to hear how it is so different and all of the differences. From our experience, we're not pros. We're very similar to that person you're describing with your coaches back in the day at the Squirrels. We don't really have any qualifications. Ben's got a couple of badges. I've got half a badge, if you can call it that. And we don't really know what we're doing. But at the same time, we're learning each year, and we're getting more experience each year that goes. But with your level of experience, and then getting thrown into the under 8s, under 9s, great. Is it like starting again? Did it feel like, oh God, I don't know what I'm doing here? Or did you use a lot of the basics and your understanding of the game?
So I'll tell you how kind of the journey. So I went in to coaching this team, and I said, it's all about the culture. Let's create the culture. And I wanted the culture to be around work rate. That's really what I wanted it to be about. I wanted it to be about work rate, fun, okay? Trying your best at all times, not worried about the outcome at all. So I'd got in there, and it was all the little things. I'm trying to create discipline. I'm trying to create focus. When the kids come, I want them to line the bags up. Just what my experience has taught me, there is no one giant leap to excellence. It's tiny, tiny little things that you cannot let go. You just got to keep on it. Do they line the bags up now? No. So I'm on them all the time. Line your bags up. Whose bag's that over there? Go and get that bag. Bring it. You know how we do things. So, and what the hope is that they will self-police eventually. That's the idea of creating that kind of culture. So that was all I was really focused on. I was going to shape them up and get them to play the right way. So this will make you laugh. So I'd got them in kind of like in America, it's crazy, right? There's all types of leagues and everything. So I tried to put them in the kind of lowest league I could get them in, because I knew I was going to play out from the goalkeeper. These kids have been used to catching it and just throwing it away, or rolling it. Someone who just boots it down the field. I wanted them to play. I wanted them to learn how to play. So I knew they would get absolutely battered. They would lose every week. And my assistant coach, bless him, he said, we can't play in that league. We need to go into the other league. And he went to the director of the club and put us in the top league. So it was even worse. It was amplified. So we got battered every week. And we gave away 5 goals a game, because we're playing through the goal. The goalkeepers are like, we've never done this before. And we're trying to play out. So it was about the culture, style of play. They were the big things that I was focused on. And now we've had a break over the Christmas period, and I've reflected on a lot of the things that we did. And I saw this post on, I'm always, my Instagram feed is mostly youth soccer stuff, tennis players, tennis techniques. I'm trying to get good at tennis. And I saw this post on Instagram of a South American coach, and he showed an academy program that was playing like Pep Guardiola, pass around. And he was like, that's not the way to do it. The way to do it is, and he showed a clip from South America of all these kids literally getting the ball and trying to take the whole team on every time they got the ball. And he was like, that's development. Let them play, let them try and develop their kind of one-on-one mastery, and then teach them how to pass at a later date. And these kids were way older than the 8 and 9-year-olds that I'm coaching. You know, these were like 11, 12, 13-year-olds. And that kind of got my mind thinking, am I doing the right thing trying to play like Man City out the back with these, with Oliver's team? So, and now I'm reflecting on that a bit as I go into this season. I really want to get, I noticed it in the first half of the season. The kids were frightened to go and take people on, even in the attacking third. So my focus now is almost, go and express yourself, go and play with freedom. I think I went far too far, the kind of adult pass in the first half of the season. So that's me learning. So you talk about learning and developing. That's exactly what I'm doing here all the time. One of the top coach educators I had ever worked with, a guy called John Peacock, worked for the FA for years. He always talked about humility, and that being one of the key attributes of top coaches. You have to be humble. You have to be able to embrace new ideas and bring those new ideas to what you're doing. And I feel that I've definitely learned that, coaching Oliver's team.
So we can totally relate to this, John, in the sense that we did things the other way around. Our whole focus from the very beginning was ball mastery, 1v1 ball mastery. They did it from a young age. We sent them to a thing called Ballers Elite. We got them all in there, just kept telling them, just try and beat people, go 1v1. But then that was all they wanted to do. And then we weren't passing, and we were losing to teams that we should 100% beat because the boys were completely focused on 1v1. Now we're switching it up and saying, great, you're good at 1v1. We like that. We're pleased with that. But you're not going to win on your own, and you need to play for each other. And it's not about your individual glory. It's about the team winning. And now they're starting to pass, and it is absolutely fantastic. But we've really struggled at times against teams that, player for player, talent-wise, were not on the par of our team. But they were just wanted, every time they got the ball, it was, can I beat everyone on the team? I mean, it's obviously different for you because you had a professional career, but I think for any dad or mum who comes into this and you've been a football fan your whole life and you think you know football, when you start coaching, you realise you know nothing about football and you actually didn't understand why. You start to understand why you do things yeah, I mean, it's just been amazing for me because I think that I've learned more about football, genuinely, hand on heart. I played football my whole life. I have my coaching badges up to level 2 here. I've coached in America. My whole career has been in football. Until I started coaching this team, I thought I knew football. And then I was like, actually, do you know what? I don't think I know anything about football. I thought I did, but I really didn't. And speaking to people like yourself and people in the game has been a huge education for me.
One of the great things that they do with LFE, League Football Education, is make all of the YTs, as they were, all the apprentices, do a coaching course. I think that's great. But I think what's more important than doing a coaching course, they actually need the experience of coaching a team. So until you coach a team, you don't really know what the coach is expecting of you as a player. So it changed my whole kind of philosophy on the game. One of the stories that I tell is that, you talk about the penny dropping with pro players. The penny dropped with me when I was playing in League 2 for Northampton Town against Chesterfield. All right, that's when the penny dropped. That's when I realised, shit, this is what it's about. And that was too late. And that was at the end of my career. You talk about the penny dropping. If it had dropped at 17, it would have been great. But Stuart Gray, who's the assistant at Fulham, Marco Silva there at the minute, and he signed me, and he was under pressure. He was under pressure right from the start to perform, and I knew if we lost this game, he would have got the sack. You know, when you kick it out for an injury, we kicked it out for an injury, and Chesterfield threw it back to us, expecting us to kick it back to them. But they threw it back to me, and I was playing centre midfield for Northampton Town, and just got the ball, and I just drove straight at their centre backs, and we didn't score. I think we were drawing at the time, but then for the rest of the game, they were obviously booing me. That, you know, the typical thing. But I was like, listen, you have to forgo. This is not about me. Okay, this is about the guy who's going to lose his job if we don't win this game. And if he loses his job, then I might not play, and then the other people might lose their job. And at the pro level, that's a big thing. So long story short, I think what it taught me being a coach is that you don't think about yourself at all as a player. You shouldn't think about yourself. You should think about what's required for the team. And if you think about that from a player's perspective, I was one of these players who was constant, oh, that's a bad pass, and you get in your own head. But if you think only about the requirements of the team, then that's incredibly freeing as an individual, because you're not worried about yourself. You're only worried about what's required for the team. So what it does, it takes all the pressure off your shoulders, and you just play with total freedom. And, you know, the best players play with total freedom. They play like they do not care. The fact is, they do care, but they don't care about themselves. They care about what the team wants and what the team needs, which is incredible, really, when you think about it. How so many people get in their own heads, and thinking and just reframing it in that way can really take a load off a lot of kids who put pressure on themselves.
Yeah, I think that's so insightful. I love that as well, because I can relate in many ways to my son. He's always in his own head, to the point where he can sometimes go missing in a game, because you can just tell he's just thought about the mistake he's just made, or he's hurt himself and he's just thinking about that, and you could just see him almost switch off. And because they're so young, and they're still trying to go through all of these emotions and process, their brain is still growing at the end of the day, so they're still trying to process everything that's happening on the pitch, plus other thoughts that are happening in the game. And you could just see him. Sometimes he will just be stationary, or he's just watching what's going on around him, ball watching. So that's definitely something that I'll relay to him. Just think about the team, think about the coaches, think about everyone else, think about the freedom that could instill in you to just play your own game. Just try your best.
Definitely never heard it framed like that. And I think if you're talking about shared responsibility, and you show, don't worry about how you're playing, just do this job because it's what the team needs you to do. You haven't got to win the game on your own. You've just got to do this job in the team that will help us win together. I actually think that's quite a really simple, it's also such a simple way of putting it to a kid, because you just give them one job, but you don't overload them with all these ridiculous sort of instructions that they're never going to understand, which, by the way, I absolutely have done since I've been doing it. But actually just to simplify it down, to distill it down to one job, I think that's fantastic. Now, we've gone off in another direction, because I didn't know you coached your son's team, and I've loved it, and I want to keep going down this way. But the listeners will be annoyed with me if I don't start asking some questions about Man United. Quick break. Before we dive back into the episode, we want to take a moment to help you level up your coaching game with the help of Football DNA, the ultimate coaching platform that's been a game changer for us. What do we love about it? It's super easy to use, saves us loads of time, and best of all, it doesn't just show you how to set up a practice, it teaches you how to coach it properly. And that's the key. The sessions are put together by top level coaches. We're talking first team staff at clubs like Celtic, Crystal Palace and West Ham. Proper pedigree. You get videos, diagrams, full explanations, downloadable PDFs, and if you need it, a full 36-week training plan tailored to the age group you are coaching. Our lads have loved the sessions. It's made our lives easier, improved our coaching, and taught us loads. Now we genuinely look forward to training and developing our players. Check it out at footballdna.co.uk. That's footballdna.co.uk, or you can download the app. Just search Football DNA. Trust us now, and you'll thank us later. You go into Man United. I don't know where to start. There's so many questions. Who was in your team in the academy? Who was your coach? What was the experience like? Let's start there.
Walking into the cliff, I can only liken it to, I don't know, I don't think I've walked into one of the colleges in Oxford or some big institution, Lloyd's of London, or, some big corporate bank headquarters or something like that. You walk into the cliff and it was an experience just to walk in there as an employee of Manchester United, as a player of Manchester United. I think as a staff member as well, because you knew that the minute you drove through those gates, you had to behave in a different way. You had to be different. So every time you'd walk into the cliff, into the training ground in the morning, you would have to be on guard. You would have to be on it, and you'd have to be focused and switched on. God forbid you were sat down reading the newspaper with your feet half up on the side, on the sofa or something like that, and the gaffer saw you, because you would be in for it. Or even, his henchman like Eric Harrison, who was my youth team coach when I was there. God forbid. I think the team of people at that time was so small that it all came down from the boss, obviously. So everything was orchestrated by the boss. My digs at the cliff were actually right behind basically the car park. And as you do, you get up in the morning for a pee about 6 o'clock in the morning, and you poke your head out the curtains. There's one car in the car park, right? In the manager spot, his big kind of beige Merc was there every morning. Before anybody else, he was there. So the kind of work rate and philosophy that he had kind of filtered down into his team, and Eric and Neil Bailey and Pop Robson and Jim Ryan and all those guys that I worked with at that time, kind of personified the standards and the ethos that Sir Alex Ferguson kind of brought down on everybody. So it was an experience just to walk through the door every morning. You had to be on guard, and obviously back then it was totally ruthless. There was no health and safety, well-being of the young players and mental health or anything like that. If we were in out of line in any way, shape or form, we'd have a court case, and that court case could lead to all kinds of corporal punishments, whatever you call it. It was draconian, to say the least. We'd have ring outs, we call them. We'd get hit with bongs, you name it. We'd have to chat up a mop, give your best chat up lines to this mop, and we'd do all kinds of stuff. But you know what? The balls were always pumped. The gym was always tidy. The floors were always mopped. It was a different time, but definitely instilled some standards that live with me to this day.
That is hilarious, by the way. I mean, that's brilliant. And you hear a lot of
Making some notes for Saturday.
yeah, but that would just be you, girl. See your chat up line, Ben. John, I've got a question. Just so your first day at the cliff, right? So you're a top player now. You sign in for United. You're going through the gates, and because we always talk about levels in football, and that is right from the very bottom all the way right through to the very top. Unless you're the Messis, the Ronaldos of the world, where you are the pinnacle, the rest of the rest of the football pyramid, there's just so many different levels. And whenever you think you are the man, the boss, you're smashing it in your league or in your team, and then you see another team and there's someone that's just a whole different world apart from where you currently are. Did you ever have that when you went to, was it either United or other teams? Did you ever have that minute where you were like, oh, okay, this is the level?
So I was an early developer as a kid. So I was captain of England, played for England, a year young, and always played to the age. I went to Lilleshall, FA National School of Excellence. So I was always considered, for my age group, one of the best players in the country. So don't forget, you go into the club all the time. I signed as a schoolboy when I was 15, and I didn't go there until I'd finished school. I was still 16. So when you go in there as a schoolboy, and particularly before I signed, they're winding and dining me, taking my mum and dad to Old Trafford to watch games, and it was actually the game against Blackburn at Old Trafford where United won the league for the first time. That I was like, wow, this is where you got to play. But anyway, so you had that kind of experience, and then you come in on your first day as an apprentice, and it is made very clear you are bottom of the ladder. Your job is to mop and clean the gym. If there's any sweat on any of these exercise bikes or any of this equipment, this is what's going to happen. So you're humbled straight away and brought right back down, and you're like, oh, right, now we've got to start going again. So you're dead right. It's like stepping into another environment and then building yourself up in that environment again. And it's tough. It is tough. So the attrition rate in professional football and from academy players is, horrendous, isn't it? We do think about it. These places do such a bad job of turning players into pros, but it's just so demanding. It is so demanding at the highest level. So it certainly weeds the people out.
By the way, John, I used to sign you all the time on Championship Manager to see me.
I was a better player on Championship Manager than I was in real life. Much better.
I was going to tell my mate. I forgot to tell my mate I was talking to. You were an absolute start the game, get John Curtis in. Without a doubt. He's but when you was in training, who was you like, wow, that's a bit tasty, and when you were training with them?
Well, I didn't when I first got there, obviously I was training with the youth team. So, I didn't go straight into the first team as a 17-year-old. It probably took me a full year before I even got anywhere near the first team. And they kind of integrate you ever so slightly. Sir Alex did a fantastic job. He's well documented of how he kind of protected Ryan Giggs and how he kind of drip fed him into the media and things like that. And he's done that with younger players. Ronaldo, obviously, later on, but he was consistently doing that with his players. And that's kind of how it was as a young player coming through. You had to earn your kind of place. But if you think about that United team back in the 90s, it was phenomenal. Obviously when I'm there as a young kid, Eric is still there. So Eric is, God's gift. He's walking around, in Paris. He walks in, it's almost like Eric walks in the front, everyone stands up kind of thing. He had that kind of presence about him. So, but you have all of the big hitters that you could imagine from the 90s team. I didn't find out till later, until I actually played with him, but Sparky, Mark Hughes, is possibly the worst trainer in the world. So, top world-class striker, best in the world with back to goal, volley in, he scored unbelievable goals. Cannot train for Toffee. He honestly is the worst player in training. But he just switches in a game. He's unbelievable. But that whole group of players, the work ethic in that group, the professionalism in that group was kind of phenomenal. And they attributed a lot to Cantona and what he did. But all of the young players, if you think of the Beckhams, the Nevilles, Scholesy, but all of those guys, they all stayed out after training. They all did extra. So that kind of work ethic was very visible, very visible. And I think the manager at the time was almost pulling them off the pitch. He didn't have to kind of motivate them to go out and train.
Yeah, one of the previous coaches we've had on the podcast said for the very top level, they're not looking for normal people. They're not looking for normal kids. They're looking for the complete abnormal in almost every capacity you can imagine, especially mentality. Yeah. They want those kids to be the first ones there, the last ones to leave. Do not pull out of a tackle, go full 100% on every session, every training, every physical activity that you're possibly doing. That's the mentality, right? That's the major difference that you would have seen with your youngest now in the grassroots setup through to to these academies that you were part of and that you've been a part of as a coach.
Yeah, it is mentality. Like I said at the beginning, I touched on at the beginning, that if you told this 4-corner model that the FA obviously work with, the psychological, social side is definitely the most important. It really is. If you've got that right, the other corners kind of look after themselves. So that having and you need to be a bit weird, I think, to be a top player. There's always a little bit of kind of craziness in there, and yeah, that was certainly true with my kid. Goalkeepers are always a bit weird, and top players are always a little bit weird as well.
Talking of crazy, John. Well, because I want to give you the opportunity to speak about your experiences in America before we wrap it up. But talking of crazy, do you know Mick Clegg? How do you know? Are you familiar with Mick Clegg?
Well, so Michael Clegg, Mick's son, so he was there when I was there. So we kind of grew up together the whole time. Yeah. So Michael Clegg I know very well. Snores like an absolute trooper. But I used to room with him Champions League nights, and would be in bloody, I don't know, Monaco or somewhere like Turin or something. And he was that wide because he had been on the weights that much, and he's unbelievably strong, like chiseled, like a proper V shape. He couldn't roll out, couldn't sleep on his side. So he had to just sleep on his back like this and he snored like you wouldn't believe. He was the worst roommate out there. Really was.
We had Mick on the pod, and he was funny because he was absolutely mental. And I don't know how our children would react to a Mick Clegg training session, but yeah, he was good fun. Now, before we move on to where you are now, I just want to know what made you start NCE Soccer, and how has that all your experiences at United and that environment that you described so brilliantly earlier, how did that influence in any way NCE Soccer, what you do? Just tell me about how that started and what your philosophy is there.
So I came to America, first of all, as technical director of Everton America. So I was interviewed at Goodison Park, and I'm thinking, this is the real deal. I'm at Goodison Park. We're going to America, and we're gonna create Finch Farm in the United States. Got here and soon figured out that, just like, listen, in America, you know what it's like. There's the Barcelona thing, there's the PSG, there's Liverpool, there's, you name it, every club is here, but it's not the real thing. It's just marketing and PR spun. And I'd been here for probably 6 months, and I was like, this is a mess. A total mess. It's not about the kids at all. It's all about the club. It's all about creating teams. It's all about money. And I was like, we've got to do our own thing. We've got to be the antithesis of the American system. The American system is just wrong from a player development standpoint. And how can we create something that models the European models and gives kids legitimate, real opportunities to progress? So that's why we started NCE, and we've been. It's funny, we see the fruits of our labor when kids go on to sign pro contracts. So I think we've got about 3 or 4 in New York City FC's first team at the moment, doing preseason training with New York City. So it's great to see those former boys, go on and do well. So we've got same on the girls' side. It's really rewarding to see that. So we continue to try and do that. We try and run our training programs, modeled on, my experiences back with Manchester United and Forest and the other clubs that I played for. Everywhere that I learned, I'm just trying to, recreate it with NCE in the US. It's not easy, but I think we've got a good team of people working hard to try and do the same thing.
And what age groups do you train, John?
So we a whole plethora of age groups, again, the whole range from U8 up to U18. Most of the kids that tend to come into our program are kind of 11 to 15, I would say. That's kind of our sweet spot in terms of the number of players that we work with. But the earlier we can get them, the better. The earlier we can try and get the kind of the standards that we expect into the kids, the quicker they can develop those standards and understand why we're telling them to do things the way we do, the quicker they can get that. Then, because they're training with us at a supplemental level, they're still working in the club environment. So we need them to understand that this is where you need to work. Forget the standards that you're seeing there, develop them internally and personally, and then take them there. So when you go there, you're a better player and you can take everything from every training session you do. So it's about developing those personal standards that a player can take with them, because it's very, very, very difficult in the US.
If you're involved in running a grassroots football club, the football part is easy. It's the admin that takes over your evenings, weekends, and sometimes your sanity. We're excited to partner with Love Admin, the super simple club management platform designed to take all that admin stress off your plate. Whether you're managing a youth team, a community club, or a full academy, Love Admin helps you run things smoothly without drowning in spreadsheets, WhatsApp groups, and late night payment chases. Love Admin handles memberships and registrations, automatically collects payments on time without you having to chase anyone, keeps all your messages to players, parents, coaches and volunteers in one place, helps you organise volunteers and gives you clear reports so you always know what's happening across your club. If your club's been saying there has to be a better way to run this, there is. It's Love Admin. Tell us, what is an NCE Soccer experience like? If, we have lots of people from America listening, what do you get when you come to one of your sessions and you become an NCE player?
Well, the first thing is it's tryout based, so not everyone can become an NCE player. Think of it as a pathway. So the first step is the tryout, the trials. You would come in and you would be selected based on your performance at the tryout. Then the next step on the pathway is the training program, a weekly supplemental training program, normally for a spring season, fall season, winter season. And it's really in that environment, as you guys know, a one-off tryout is very, very hard to select players. So it's really in the training program that the coaches get to know the players, get to work with the players. And we're delivering kind of a whole range of different session plans covering all different types of topics. We basically go through the thirds, we go through the different phases of the game in each third of the field every week, kind of going through, and is our kind of the base of our curriculum. So the kids will do all different kinds of exercises and topics in the sessions. And during that whole season, they will have done some defending, some counter-attacking, transition to defend, all kinds of different things. So we'll get an idea of how good they are. And from there, if we think they're good players, we'll invite them into our camps and our tournaments. And if they do well in our camps and our tournaments, then we can invite them into our international tours, which are really impactful. And we now, hopefully, we'll announce it soon. We have a kind of the pinnacle of our pathway will be our schools. So that's the kind of progression that a player can expect throughout the pathway with NCE.
The one thing that sprang to my mind with when you were talking just then is something we haven't actually touched on that we do tend to talk with our guests about a lot, is that there's two parts to this. There's the cultural differences between the US and the UK, but also the parenting side of things, right? And what parents are like. As you know, the UK, and I think just football in general, can get a bad rap around the pressure put on kids, how it can turn you into this crazy person, and how parents are too pushy, and they're pushy with their kids, but they're also pushy with other coaches. Do you see that in the US? Is that still there? Because you can tell they've got this drive, this innate drive that's at a parent level, but also these kids tend to have this drive, or the perception is anyway. But do they interfere with the coaches, or do they respect the coaches more? Or what's the differences?
Well, I think the difference is that they're paying for the product. Yeah. So when you pay for a product, you're a customer, and the customer is always right. So it's very, very tough. And in this case, the customer is very rarely right. That can be a problem, and that has a real negative effect on the coaches in the club environment. Because if you have, there's so much politics. There's so much. If you have a successful dentist okay, who's telling the B licensed coach what he needs to do with his son or daughter, that doesn't make sense, does it? I'm not going to start cleaning people's teeth or pulling people's teeth out, pretending I'm an expert.
Or maybe some of the kids, if they don't do what you say, John.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a new punishment. New punishment. Get the get the pliers out. So it's totally wrong. There's a lot of parent involvement because they are a paying customer. We at NCE totally distance themselves. We try and distance the parents as much as we can. But when I say we distance them, we're actually brutally honest with them. If they come to us and say, we won't sugarcoat it. We'll say, no, he's not good enough. He needs to work on this, 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 and this. And we're here to help him, by the way. We can help him work on this, this, and this, and this. Some people like that, and some people don't. But it's the only way you can be. You can't lie to somebody and expect them to improve in certain areas. If they're already a good dribbler, why am I telling him, he needs to improve his dribbling? Okay, create a super skill or whatever whatever the phrase is. But if he's not good at something or she's not good at something, you've got to tell them so they can focus on that and improve it. So, and because they're customers, coaches are frightened to be honest with them because they don't want to scare them away. Whereas we'll be brutally honest and say this, and this, but we can help him do that. So I think that's critical. Clubs see parents as it's quite harsh, really, but almost as a cash machine. And they want to keep them. They want to hoard players, create more teams. And of course, there's never that, because the system is so wrong. There's so few coaches who will say, oh, this is the best player in my team. You need to leave my team now, and you need to go to this other club across town, which is better. And you need to go and develop there because that's what's going to be right for you. That just doesn't happen because you're sending them to a competitor across town. And that's bad for the players. So all of that kind of thing is what we try and kind of cut through. It's tough, though.
Whenever we have listeners message, we've had American coaches on. Well, we've had coaches that coach in America on before, and all the listeners are amazed when we tell them how much it costs to play football in England. Like, they're absolutely blown away. But it's a working class sport here, right? It's a middle class sport in America, because in America you're competing against the working class sports, which is basketball, American football, etc. And football, soccer is the middle class sport. So it's the same as I know your son went on to become a professional rugby player, but you understand from our perspective, because you're English, that rugby is a middle class sport. And
posh sport,
doing
posh.
Yeah, exactly. That the boys that make it there, they've gone to certain schools, and so we understand it, but it's just kind of flipped differently in our country, and they're amazed by that. I've got a question from a listener before I get onto that. I just wanted to know, what do you think there are any differences between the kids in England and the kids in America in terms of how they learn the game and their approach? I mean, I've spoke about this before, but I coached for a summer in America, not proper coaching, John. I did summer camps. Kids are just turning up. We're putting on a World Cup thing. I'm not for 1 minute saying it was proper coaching, but I always felt like the kids, they were so enthusiastic. They wanted to be there, and whereas when I've coached in England before, it's turn up in a pair of jeans. They're like, "What do you know about football?" It's well, I know more than you little bastard. So go and stand over there, stand behind that.
Yeah.
I just felt obviously I'm making yeah. I've obviously given very extreme examples there, for a joke, but I just kind of feel like there was a different attitude from the children in America.
I agree. I think they know the answer to everything. So if you ask a question, they'll always know the answer. But can they execute it? No, they can't. So they're for the most part within NCE, which is obviously where most of my coaching has been, and with other programs, I've always coached at kind of a higher level, which means the kids are always very engaged. They're always switched on. They're already there. So I don't have the little kids squirting water at each other and things like that you do get. but we don't get that in NCE. So they're engaged, they're switched on. I almost think they are a little German in terms of a little bit robotic. If you think of good American footballers over the years, there was lots of goalkeepers. It's changed a little bit now, but I think this country will produce more high quality centre backs, more science-based players than artists. It's changed a bit.
Athletes.
Yeah, athletes. They are good athletes. They tend to be more disciplined. Like you say, more German. I think that, like you say, the kids in England can be little terrors. You don't tend to get the little terrors as much over here. You know, when we run a summer camp or summer camps, and we've got hundreds of kids there. You know, if you were doing that in England, it could be an absolute disaster, a disaster. But I think the kids in America are a little bit more sheltered, in many respects, protected.
Yeah. When I think about their sport, so it's very set piece orientated, and there's a little bit of freedom and flair in basketball, right? Because that's the street sport. The street sport in England is football, so there's that creativity, and it's not all like it's not that. You don't get moments of magic. I mean, listen, I quite like American football, but when they like describe a moment of magic, I'm like, the geezer just ran down a line, they threw the ball to him, and he caught it. Have you ever seen Ronaldinho with a ball? That's magic. This Gims are fighting the ball to that ball. That ain't magic. Right? You know, he jumped. Oh, look at this. He's a wizard. He jumped over someone. That ain't magic, mate. Go to YouTube, put Ronaldinho on. That's magic. And I just think that the way they play sport is athletic, very athleticism, very functional. And I also think, you know, in the way I often liken it to the Japanese. Like I had a friend who coached in Japan, and they said that the Japanese would repetition. They'd practice. They could do it to the nth degree. It was amazing how well they could master something. But the ability to just play off the cuff and be yourself, that is a cultural thing that I think where the sport has to be the sport that's played on the street for that it's not as easy as just going to a kid, right, go and do 50 Cruyff turns, 25 step overs. Like, you can learn ball mastery, but it's the spirit of freedom that, you know, creates that creativity, I think. Quick one for the coaches and volunteers listening. If you're sorting kits for a grassroots team, you'll know the pain. It's never as simple as it should be. That's exactly why Discount Football Kits exists. They supply quality football kits at prices that actually work for grassroots clubs. No nonsense, no hard sell, just reliable team wear that turns up on time and looks the part on match day. From full team kits to training wear for growing squads, everything's built to make your life easier. If you're tired of overpaying or overthinking kits, head to discountfootballkits.com and get your team sorted today. Just one last question before you go, John. This is from one of our most dedicated listeners. She says, I'm the mum. Her name's Callie Gillan. I'm the mum of a 10-year-old football mad boy. He has recently moved from wing to defence, and while he's excelling, fast, brave and smart in his play, he struggles to see his impact since he's not scoring. Kids pick up early that football is all about goals, and he looks up to attackers as the stars. I'd love to hear if you ever felt like this as a young defender, and what advice you'd give your younger self or boys like him about taking pride in defending and contributing in less flashy ways. And then she has the second part to the question, but we'll get to that. So how do you sort of sell the defending to a kid that is obsessed with the stars and attacking?
Yeah, well, listen, if you look at all the best defenders these days, you know, look at the fullback position where I played. You know, you were lucky if I overlapped Keith Gillespie or any of my mates, they'd just ignore me and go inside. But today the roles have changed. You know, that there's so many fullbacks now that have freedom to get forward. So hopefully he still has the ability to express himself in an attacking sense. And like you said, it's very different football to American football. You know, American football, they all leave the pitch and then a whole new team come on when it's on defense. But look at it this way: when we've got the ball, everybody's an attacker. Everybody is trying to do the same thing, put the ball in the back of the net. So he has to contribute to that just as much as anybody else. But I think from what I used to love doing was winning tackles. just smashing people in a tackle. You can get a lot of satisfaction. Fair, hit the ball and clean through. I would have been sent off I think I got sent off twice in my career. In today's day and age, I would have been sent off, I think, on a
We'd have been arrested.
some of these tackles, I'm like, that's a great tackle. How can you give him a yellow card for that? And he's just, these reckless tackles. The referees don't understand how much control and quality it actually takes to jump in the air, fly through the air, and time it perfectly to tackle somebody. If you're off the ground these days, it's a yellow card immediately. Reckless. That's magic. That's Ronaldinho magic.
That's magic. You're talking my language, John. This is for a boy in our team, Dexter. Dexter, we love seeing you take off and smash people, mate. This is comes from John Curtis. He made it at Man United. You can smash people. He's giving you an endorsement. Okay, so just the second part of the question is the last question. Also, you were very, very versatile as a player. How important do you think it is for kids to experience different positions in grassroots football?
I think it's critical, and that's something that, again, reflecting on my first time with Oliver's team, pigeonholed a lot of people in positions, and you can't do that. I think you've got to rotate them round, and obviously everybody wants to play in an attacking role. I'll play on the wing. I'll play striker. I'll play. Even my goalkeeper's like, "Can I come out and play striker?" I'm like, "No, you can come out and play centre back." "Oh, I'm not so keen then to come out." So I think moving them round, and the amount of centre midfield players who I'm desperate to play as a centre back, so they can almost see that position as like a 6, particularly when you're playing 7v7. It's a great way to see the game from the back there. So I think it's critical. You've got to move around. You've got to switch them up. Invert your wingers, get them used to it. Definitely move positions. I think you get to about 12, 13, then you can start being a little bit more rigid. But even then, some of the best players have switched from centre forward to centre back, and vice versa at a much later age. So mixing up, I think, is key. Really important.
Love that. We've done that. The boys are a little bit more sort of fixed in their positions, but we've moved them around, much often to our own sons' disappointment. When they're told to stay at the back, but we've moved them around and whatnot. But John, we're wrapping it up now. But for anyone interested in NCE Soccer, where are the places to find you? Where can they follow you? Where can they find out more information?
So ncesoccer.com is our website. You can also follow us on Instagram. Lots of good content on there that explains our programming. We're heavily focused around the New York area, so lots of centers in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. We're also on the West Coast in Los Angeles, and further up in towards Sacramento as well. And then we have a little presence down by me here in Charleston, South Carolina as well. So they're our main hubs, but we're open to players from anywhere in the country, so they can send video footage in of them playing in games, and that will give us a good idea of their level and how they can get involved with what we do.
Okay, so we're finished there. And if your child hasn't quite found their perfect spot on the pitch yet, don't worry. Let them explore different positions, explain that every role is a chance to learn the game, and focus on the positives of what each position teaches them. Encourage enjoyment above all else. Listen back to this episode and the advice of John. It's a great guide to helping your child discover their love for football, build a broader understanding of the game, and grow as a player. And remember, they won't love every session or every position every single day, and that's perfectly okay. It's all part of the learning process. And at the end of the day, keep it fun, keep encouraging, because, well, it's only kids football. If you enjoyed the podcast, please take 2 seconds to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss future episodes. And if you want to check out our previous episodes, just click here.